obviously there's not a whole lot of sports that have been going on. The Last Dance has been on. The Michael Jordan documentary. If you have not watched it, I think you're missing out on a lot of great things. This is my first time talking about it on this podcast. You know, I really like the series so far. I think that it's been exciting. It's been a breath of fresh air without sports, and I'm just gonna give my biggest takeaways from it, and then I'll let you go. My biggest takeaway is what if? What if Michael Jordan played in today's NBA? Because a lot of things that went on back then would get magnified in a microscope a lot bigger than it did when Michael Jordan was playing. And I think that in today's, sports media world, we're always we are always nitpicking players. We're always saying, "Oh, this guy doesn't win enough. This guy sucks. He's a bust." And I think that what people did in the 90s and the 80s with Michael Jordan is they just sat back and kind of appreciated the guy. And maybe it was because he was just so much better than everyone else. Even when he was getting knocked out in the playoffs by the Pistons, you could tell that guy was probably arguably the best player in basketball. But in today's world, when Michael Jordan was losing to the Pistons, I think that the narrative on Twitter will be, he's James Harden. He scores a lot of points, but ain't winning. And then, when he gets all the help, they're going to say, "Oh, well, it was Phil Jackson. It's Scottie Pippen, the only reason why he's good." I just think that Michael Jordan's legacy would be under a much bigger microscope in today's NBA. I think he was much more appreciated back then. And, how would the players deal with Michael Jordan today? Because I got to tell you something right now. I like the way Michael Jordan is leading in this series. I like the fact that he has that killer instinct mentality, the get in your face. He slapped Steve Kerr in the latest episode to say, "Hey, you better get on the same page with me, little guy." And Steve Kerr confronted him, and Michael Jordan had a lot of respect for him. Could you imagine a player like LeBron James or Kevin Durant slapping Steph Curry, or a bench guy on the roster? LeBron James slapping maybe Mike Miller or something like that when he was back in Miami. Could you imagine the pushback he would get? Could you imagine the headlines that would be there? And I just don't think a lot of players in today's NBA would be able to deal with Michael Jordan, because I'm going to be honest with you, it's a lot softer in today's league. The players, they have it pretty good. I think a lot of players would want to get traded away just because of his attitude. I'm not trying to bang on Michael Jordan, but again, I just think that the attitude of these guys in today's NBA are much more different from the 90s. They're not really grinders. That's just my opinion. And also, Jerry Krause. Could the Bulls have been better? Could they have extended that dynasty? I always think that he kind of wanted credit. He was always trying to do so many things and just say, "Yeah, I'm the guy that actually made this team up." And could you imagine if Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors was going to be out as head coach after winning a title? I couldn't imagine that. That's basically what Phil Jackson was put into right there. When Jerry Krause said that he wasn't going to return to the team. So, overall, those are my biggest takeaways. What's your biggest takeaway from the Last Dance series, per se? Or do you agree with me?
As far as Jerry Krause goes, I see a lot of Jerry Jones in him, I really do. Like, watching this, I really do. Because, you compare it, it's like the Bulls, they won 6 championships, they had their dynasty, but what have they done since then? Nothing. And, the Cowboys, they had their dynasty, they had their 5 championships, but what have we done since then?
Nothing.
And it's just, you gotta take that step back. And Jerry Krause wasn't willing to do that, and that's why the organization is where they are now. And, Cowboys as well. Well, Cowboys are a little better than the Bulls, I would say. But, the first 6 episodes, I gained a new respect for Michael Jordan. I've always acknowledged that he was one of the greatest in the game, and but watching the series, it gave me some new respect for him, and I do think while watching it, like, players kind of like bowed down to Michael Jordan, like they just kind of acknowledged, like, yeah, he's the best in the game, and I think it has a lot to do with what he did on the court, but it was also what he did off the court as well. Like, he was like he was the first major shoe deal, you know what I'm saying, when he signed with Nike, and everything he did with Nike, when he came out his rookie season, that was crazy and unheard of. So, that already gave him the narrative to be the greatest, you know what I'm saying? So, and then, then he backed it up by going to win 6 championships. So it was kind of easy to kind of bow down to Michael Jordan because the narrative was set around him to be great. I feel like, just everything that was there for him, he could it helped him it just helped him create that narrative that he was going to be great. And then I feel like he had a lot of help as well. You obviously can't win a championship alone. I feel like Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan definitely appreciates Scottie Pippen. You can see that in the series, but I feel like he's underappreciated as a player. That's what I got from this Last Dance, especially by the Bulls organization, obviously, but also by the NBA. I think when he was in his prime, it was him and Michael Jordan were the best players in the NBA, and there was some other guys there as well, like Magic, and Detroit had some good guys, and Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas, but that duo was the best duo in the league. I feel like without Scottie Pippen, those 6 championships don't come. But as far as Michael Jordan goes, in today's NBA, I feel like you're right. In today's NBA, he would be looked at somewhat differently, just because of slapping players and stuff like that. But Kobe kind of had that mentality too, and we still have this respect for Kobe as well. So I don't feel like it changed too much. I think we would call it that mentality, that Mamba mentality. He just wanted to win, and Kobe modeled everything he did off of Michael Jordan. So we kind of got that modern Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So not a lot would change, except he wouldn't. I don't feel like he would be as hyped up just because he wouldn't be the first to have this major shoe deal, and it wouldn't be, on a global scale as he was back then. So he wouldn't be as hyped up as he is now. But definitely, he still would be great, I feel like.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with most of the things you said. I like the Kobe comparison, because obviously, Kobe wasn't really slapping teammates and things of that nature. He may not have been that extreme, maybe some things we don't know behind the scenes happen. But yeah, I think that Kobe was the closest thing to Michael Jordan. I'm glad that we could appreciate Kobe Bryant. Unfortunately, he died a little bit earlier than we expected, but either way, rest in peace to Kobe. And I tend to agree with what you said. The thing about Michael Jordan in the last episode, which was on last night, he basically said that, when he was thinking about retiring for baseball, he said that his motivation was, I can't retire now because Larry Bird won 2 in a row, Magic Johnson won 2 in a row. I got a 3-peat. And that's what he did. And I just think that, like you said, the shoe deal, him being the first guy to really truly 3-peat, with, obviously Bill Russell, I think 3-peat as well. But Bill Russell wasn't the individual player that MJ was, where he was undisputedly that guy. I'm not saying Bill Russell's not great, but not quite on Michael Jordan's level from an individual talent perspective. So I think that Michael Jordan was more appreciated just because at that time, from an individual player's perspective, he was doing things that people had not quite seen yet. I think that we kind of dock LeBron James and Kevin Durant and some of these players because MJ went 6 for 6. He was perfection. He had the big time shoe deal. He was cool off the court. And I just think that from the standard MJ put, it's like you gotta be kind of perfect. You gotta be this great guy and just this overall perfectionist on the basketball court. And sometimes, situations don't allow that to happen. Obviously LeBron James has, not always had the best teams. There's been some other players that have can say the same thing. But either way, that's just how the chips fall. I do think that I gained a lot more respect for Michael Jordan. I already had him as the GOAT, and I think he's still the GOAT in my opinion. And that's the biggest takeaway I really had from that. But you're a LeBron James fan. You're a big LeBron James fan. The biggest LeBron James fan I personally know, okay? So comparing LeBron James to Michael Jordan, first of all, let's talk about Michael Jordan a little bit more. How many points per game do you think MJ could average in today's NBA? And yeah, just give me that answer. How many points do you think? I think that he could average in the low 40s. I'll tell you why after you give your answer, but go ahead.
He would average a lot of points in this NBA. I don't know what that number is, maybe 35, something like that. But like you said, this NBA is a little bit softer than it was back then. although, people are more athletic than they were back then, yeah, I still feel like he could average in that 35-point range just because, he's not a LeBron type player where he's trying to get everybody involved. That's not really his mentality. He's just trying to do whatever it takes to win. So, he's going to be that aggressive,
assassin,
going to score points and stuff like that. And, because I think LeBron could do the same thing as well if he wanted to. But he's not as aggressive as Michael Jordan was. That's the only thing.
Yeah. The reason why I say Michael Jordan can average 40 points, I say low 40s, not like high 40s, not 45 points, not 47 points. I say he could crack 40 slightly, and I'll tell you why. Listen, this era, like you said, it's kind of soft. Obviously there are more teams that decide to switch and throw more bodies at you. Guys are more athletic, but again, physicality, as far as attention to detail on defense, it's just not there. And MJ won 10 scoring titles in the 90s when defense was actually played at a high level. He was very efficient too. People forget Michael Jordan shot 49 or 50% from the field, and that includes his Washington Wizards days. So basically he's shooting 50 to 51% from the field. James Harden is averaging 36 points per game in today's NBA. He desires the three ball a little bit more than Michael Jordan, but not quite as efficient. He takes, less efficient shots than MJ. I think MJ just likes to get to a spot in the mid-range game and just make those. So I think his efficiency would add a couple more points. Combine that with the fact that superstars in today's NBA pretty much get every single call at the rim. I mean, James Harden can literally go to the rim and get 16 or 17 free throws in one game, and he's good enough to knock down 15 to 16 or even sometimes 17 of those free throws. I think Michael Jordan could do something similar to that. And then you also add in the three ball today. The three ball was not really emphasized back in Michael Jordan's day. He just didn't need to shoot a whole lot of threes to score points because it wasn't emphasized back then. A lot of the points, I should say a lot of the games were scored in the 90s and the hundreds. Back in those days, in the NBA today, you're scoring 110, 120 points each game. And I just think that all those things combined, MJ would find his way to get at least 40 for one season. And it'd be interesting, because I think that early on he probably would score those amount of points, but as he kind of went on his career, he, reduced his scoring a little bit, committed to the triangle offense a little bit more with Phil Jackson. So it would be very interesting, but I do think that Michael Jordan could average 40 points if he wanted to in the NBA. You kind of agree with those points, or you got any pushback?
Yeah, like I said, I definitely agree. Like 35, I said 35, 40 isn't a big stretch. Yeah, NBA, definitely softer than it was back then. And about the 3-point game, I don't think Jordan would the mid-range game definitely kind of disappeared in the modern NBA. I don't see many guys working from the mid-range that much. And I don't think he would have to extend his game to the 3-point line just because how great he is in that mid-range and that inside game. So either way, I feel like he would average 35 or 40, whether he got better shooting at the 3-point line or not. So, yeah.
Yeah, and in today's NBA, I like Rudy Gobert. I like my prime Marc Gasols, but again, those are the best rim protectors. I'm sorry, that's just not as grueling as MJ had to go through, and I think that MJ would be pretty good in today's NBA. I don't think he would be the undisputed best player in basketball, but again, I do think that he'd probably be the best scorer in the NBA, with Kevin Durant, with James Harden, things of that nature, and I think that he could average 40 if he wanted to. Now let's talk about your boy, LeBron James. How do you think LeBron James would fare in the 90s and the 80s? For me, in my opinion, LeBron James is going to dominate in any era. I do think he's easily one of the 5 best players in basketball. You can make the argument that he's even the GOAT. I think you lose that argument, but I won't be mad at you if you call him the GOAT. I know you have him as the greatest player of all time, but let's talk about it. I think that at times LeBron would struggle just slightly in the 90s just simply because it's a little bit harder to get to the rim at will. I know that he's bigger and stronger than most of those guys, but a lot of the people had the Michael Jordan rules implemented, and they would foul you pretty hard, and you wouldn't be getting those ticky-tacky little fouls. And even if you did, we know LeBron James isn't the greatest free throw shooter. He's very hit and miss from the free throw line, And at times the Spurs would say, okay, LeBron James beat you with your jump shot, okay? And, at times LeBron James did in the finals, Game 7 versus the Spurs, when he won his second championship, he was able to beat them primarily with jump shots. But sometimes when the lane is clogged up, when you can't get to the rim at will, I do think LeBron would slightly struggle just because he's not as purely skilled as an MJ or a KD in the in-between game, I would say. But, he makes up for it with his athletic ability. So I do think LeBron James could, dominate in the 90s and 80s, just maybe not to the degree he would, simply because of his playing style. But what do you think?
I think he would definitely dominate in the 90s just because, first of all, I don't think Jordan rules would work with LeBron James. LeBron James is not 6'6" and whatever Jordan weighs, he's way bigger than that. So it's going to be harder to implement those kind of rules on somebody like LeBron James. And as far as shooting free throws goes, yeah, he struggles shooting free throws. That's obvious. But yeah, I think he'll begin to the realm like he is now, and just because he's more athletic, and he's way stronger than the guy. He'll be way stronger than the guys. Well, not way stronger than guys back then, but
he match up.
He'll match up with them. So I also think it's just the mentality of the game, how it differs. Those guys back then, they still have, they still have severed ties to this day. Today you see guys, they're switching jerseys after game, they're talking to each other. They're friends after the game. Guys back then, they're still not friends now, like I said. And
nope.
I think it's about the mentality of the game. So if LeBron James' mentality was like the guys back then, I feel like it would be a whole lot different. I feel like because he would be more aggressive, and he would be, he's not giving guys advice anymore. He's not, taking guys under his wing or anything like that. It's all about, winning and getting yours, trying to get yours. And I feel like LeBron, with his strength, with his heart, with his athleticism, and his court vision, which, Magic Johnson was the only guy we saw with that kind of court vision. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird was really good as well. Would make him one of the best in the 80s and 90s.
I tend to agree. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.